This is Dom from Pittsburgh Active, and today we're going to talk about my Santa Cruz 5010. Let's get at it. So this is Santa Cruz's trail bike. This particular model is a 2015 year version and it is the C frame. For those of you guys that follow Santa Cruz, this C frame is a little bit lower level than their CC frame, which is a half a pound lighter, but the C version is just as stiff. Now, it's taken me about 2.5 years to upgrade all the things that I really wanted to do with this bike. Let's start the walkthrough of the bike with a cockpit. You'll notice that this is a 6 race face carbon handlebar and an NV all mountain 40mm stem. This particular handlebar is 780mm wide, and with a super short stem, it really adds to the agility of the bike in general. We already have the RockShox Reverb Stealth Dropper, and also we have the Spank Uzi flat pedals. So that's where I really started upgrading this bike. I figured that all the contact points should be where I wanted it to be. My hands on the handlebars, steering, obviously where my butt sits, and where my feet touches. The next place I worked on was the rear shock. The shock that this particular package came with is the Fox Evolution CTD. And in itself, this shock was fine. But after reviewing or reading reviews or watching videos like this, I really was curious about the DB inline. Immediately when I installed this shock, I noticed the tracking of the rear end got so much better. I can tell you that it is a much softer feel. So I actually had to figure out that I needed air sleeves in there or air spacers so that I didn't bottom out as much. I do have to mention that I do ride this bike pretty aggressively. For those of you guys close to Pittsburgh, you guys might know the Dr. J's trail around here, which is a light free ride trail. So there's everything there from 4 or 5 foot drops, tabletops, and all that kind of stuff. And I actually use this bike on that. So that in itself should give you an idea of what capabilities this bike has. But going back to the shock, I immediately thought, really feeling the tracking capabilities of the back end. And obviously with that type of tracking, you actually get that much more control and confidence with the bike. The bike came with a RockShox Pike RC. Now this bike came with 130mm. I upgraded the dampener so that I had 140. Now this bike now is 140 up front and 125 in the back. This particular RC version differs from the RC T3 version. I think that's what it is. It's just not as adjustable. But if you're like me, I kind of just put it to fully open and just ride with it. I really try not to mess around with the suspension so much unless I'm climbing a fire road. But yeah, I'm sure you guys don't have to see it from this video on how good the Pike is. But yeah, I would probably say that I love the suspension setup that I have here. Between the overall efficient design of the Santa Cruz VPP suspension, the highly adjustable DB inline, and the RockShox Pike, this bike Guys, I don't even know how to say this. I love how this bike rides. This bike handles so well and is so planted on the way down, but is efficient enough, almost cross-country like, on the way up. Now obviously this particular build is pretty burly, I guess I can say that. But yeah guys, I would highly recommend any of these upgrades. So the next thing I did was I looked at new wheel sets. This bike came with the WTB STI 23s. Now that's a pretty standard trail wheel set. But at the time, I had a bunch of friends that really got me into something more aggressive than cross-country riding. So I really looked into something that was a little bit wider, but also with a carbon wheel set. So I landed with the Ibis 741s. Now I know there's 742s that just came out, but this wheel set is burly. It's 45 millimeters external. So actually, if you look at it just like that, it almost looks like a plus bike. I have that in the front and also the rear. 741s are wrapped with Maxxis DHFs. When I was shopping for this wheel set, I really looked at other recommendations out there. And after reading a bunch of articles and even looking at Ibis's wheels, they did come with DHFs. Now, someone may say that this is pretty aggressive for a trail bike, and I can tell you it's, yeah. From the front, I disagree. I think it's perfectly fine. In the back, it's a little bit overkill. I actually just tried to to put my Maxxis Ardents in the back, but for some reason I rode it 2 times and I separated the casing and the tread. So now I have DHFs again on the front and the back. The last thing I did on the bike is work on the drivetrain. So at first I was really looking at a carbon crank arm, specifically the Raceface Next SL. But unfortunately I'm one of those buyers that when I put my mind into something and it's not available, I'll just find the best other thing. And at the time, I went with the Shimano XTR, which I can tell you, compared to the SRAM crank arm it came with, I think there were SRAM 1200, so it's not like it's the SRAM carbon arms. But compared to that, this thing is ridiculously stiff. It was amazing how much stiffer it was and how I felt it accelerate. Just feels so much faster. I felt like the bike was so much livelier. The difference of crank arm to this, that upgrade was just about as good of an upgrade as the 741s. So I tied that crank arm with a 1x11 XT in the back. I believe it's 11 to 42. So what can I say about this drivetrain? Well, it's a Shimano product and it's pretty good. It shifts when I want it to. It's definitely durable. I can't tell you how many times I've banged this thing around. You'll probably notice a lot of nicks and cuts on this carbon frame. I certainly don't treat this bike like a princess. So yeah, so far so good. Mud, great. Dust, great. You know, anything that really Shimano puts out, they've kind of really thought about it already. It's been tested thousands and thousands of times. So yeah, no, this 1x11 drivetrain is great. The last thing I want to talk about on this bike are the brakes. That's pretty much the only components that I have not upgraded. And you might be asking why. If it seems like I've already upgraded every single thing on this bike, why not the brakes? Well, I did upgrade to the Icetech rotors, but I had, and also the brake pads where it's finned. to dissipate heat. But as far as the calipers themselves, along with the levers, I have yet to do that. And really the main reason for that is because I've read some not so good reviews about the new XT and XTR versions of the Shimano brakes. I guess they're having some consistency problems with it, which is fine. I'm sure Shimano is going to correct that and everything, but as of this time, I am completely happy with these SLX brakes. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna leave that at least until I figure out what my next bike is. So that's my Santa Cruz 5010. Special shout out to Pathfinder in Morgantown, West Virginia. They were really a good source of all information, especially Andy over there, so check them out. They gave me an honest opinion on what they would do based on the riding style that I could articulate to them. I really do think that this build is pretty unique. I don't think there's really someone out there that has done the same thing, which is super cool. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe, and if you have any questions about any of the parts, certainly, or just the bike in general, I'll be there to answer it. I hope you guys like it. Please subscribe, and check out my Instagram page at PittsburghActive. I'll see you later.